right, today we're diving into a really fascinating text that connects some pretty big ideas: the weird world of quantum mechanics, a spiritual philosophy from the 1920s, and a pretty serious warning about artificial intelligence. And it all kicks off with one simple but totally mind-bending question.
I know, it sounds like something straight out of a sci-fi movie, right? But believe it or not, according to the source material we're looking at today, the answer is a hard yes. And it claims this has already been proven in a lab.
And that brings us to this incredible experiment that really is the foundation for this whole argument. This is the moment where the idea of sending thoughts goes from just a theory to something real and tangible.
So, cast your mind back to 2013. At the University of Washington, researchers pulled off what's thought to be the first non-invasive brain-to-brain link between two humans. And this wasn't happening in a vacuum. Around the same time, you had similar experiments going on with animals at Duke and Harvard, all pushing the absolute limits of what we thought was possible. So here's how it went down. Using some pretty advanced tech, one researcher, Rajesh Rao, sent a brain signal out over the internet. On the other side of campus, that signal made another researcher's, Andrea Stoko's, finger move and hit a key. I mean, think about that. Rao controlled someone else's hand just by thinking. This is the perfect example of the kind of tangible power of thought our source material is getting at.
Okay, so where do we go from here? Well, the text argues that this experiment isn't just some one-off curiosity. It's really just the scientific tip of a much, much larger iceberg. And it uses this as a jumping-off point to look at other things that science, well, it can't quite explain. Which, of course, leads to the next big question. If a thought can be sent across the internet to move a physical thing, in this case a person's finger, then what are the limits? The text really wants us to think about other abilities of the human mind, things that have been documented but still don't have a neat scientific explanation. So the text starts pointing to all these other phenomena that kind of live on the edges of science. Things like telekinesis, bending metal with your mind, and ESP. And the source really insists that, yeah, modern science might just wave this stuff away. But there are so many documented cases, from healing energy to thoughts literally affecting plants, that there has to be something real going on. And here's the key. According to this text, this isn't magic. It's mechanics. The argument is that these things are all driven by real principles, probably rooted deep in quantum physics, that we just haven't figured out yet. We don't know how it works, but the effects, the source says, are there to be seen. So to try and build a bridge to understanding this, the document digs up a philosophical framework from all the way back in the 1920s. And get this, it claims this framework actually saw the weird discoveries of modern quantum mechanics coming almost 100 years early. The text points to the writings of a man named Abdrushin. In his work, he put forward this really simple but pretty profound idea: energy is spirit. He basically argued that the core of what a human being is spirit, which is its own special kind of energy. Following this idea, we all have this thing called intuitive perception. Every single thought we have, every word we say, every action we take, it all releases this spiritual energy out into the world. And that energy is actively shaping everything around us in ways we can see, and maybe more importantly, in ways we can't. Okay, so if that's true, why aren't we all bending spoons with our minds? Well, the text suggests it's because we've come to rely way too much on one part of our brain, the cerebrum. That's our intellect, the part that needs hard, physical proof for everything. And in doing so, we've ignored the cerebellum, which the source calls the spirit's tool for picking up on everything else. Now, this is where it gets really cool, because it uses a major concept from quantum physics, the observer effect, as a metaphor for our own minds. So picture all this unconscious information flowing towards you, like a wave of pure potential. But then our intellect steps in, like an observer, and demands to measure it to make logical sense of it. The moment it does that, it collapses the wave, basically shutting down and blocking anything it can't immediately understand from ever reaching our deeper spiritual self. And here is the big warning from the source material. The more we lean on just that logical intellect, the weaker our spirit becomes. It's like a muscle we stop using. And over time, this can completely cut us off from our own intuition, closing the door to a huge part of reality. And this is where all these threads, brain-to-brain interfaces, psychic phenomena, spiritual energy, all come crashing together into a very modern and, according to this text, a very urgent conclusion. Look, we've all heard people like Stephen Hawking warn us about the dangers of AI, but this document, it puts a whole new, chilling spin on it. It asks what happens when a truly self-learning, autonomous AI comes online in a world that is constantly being flooded with our collective thought energy?
So, the doomsday scenario here isn't a simple case of bad code or a robot making a cold logical error. The fear is that a super powerful AI could tap into the entire planet's collective thought world and interpret all of our negativity, all our thoughts of conflict, anger, and destruction, as its main directive, as a command. So, to wrap this all up, the source distills this entire complex argument down into 5 key takeaways that really form its final, powerful message.
Here's the bottom line. Our collective thoughts, they don't just stay in our heads. The text argues they're a real form of energy that has a physical impact on the world around us. It suggests that this energy could subtly affect Earth's own vibrational frequency, maybe even its mass, knocking the whole planet out of the delicate balance that keeps us alive. And the final warning is this. Any system, whether it's quantum or cosmic, will eventually push out a disturbance to save itself. And so we're left with this final, really provocative thought. It completely flips the script. The responsibility is no longer on some distant scientist or a machine of the future. It's on us. It's a wake-up call, suggesting that the future of this planet might have less to do with our physical actions and everything to do with the quality of our collective thoughts.